I start with the greetings of the day, children, and let me tell you the topic that we will discuss today is chapter 1 of class 10th civics, that is power sharing. Now look at the screen, children, and let's see what topics we will cover. First one, that will be what is power sharing. Then power sharing in Belgium and Sri Lanka. Majoritarianism in Sri Lanka. Accommodation in Belgium. Why power sharing is desirable. Forms of power sharing. So children, let's get started. Power sharing, what is power sharing? Power sharing is, children, the distribution of power among the organs of government. What are the organs of the government? There are 3 organs of the government. One is your legislature, second is your executive, third is your judiciary. Now let's see what is legislature. Legislature, children, is an organized body having authority to make laws. That is, the job of legislature is to make laws. Now what is the job of executive? The job of executive is, it is in fact one of the responsible branches of the government that put laws into effect. That is, it implements the laws. And now the last one, the judiciary. Judiciary is that branch of the government which, children, administers justice. Now children, if the justice or the judiciary of the country is strong, you will have peace, you will have harmony, you will have good governance. Now, besides this distribution of power among the organs, you have power sharing, which is done at different levels. What are the 3 levels? They are the central can also be known as the union government. Then you have the state, which can be known as the provincial government. Then you have the local level government, and in India we have them as municipalities and panchayats. Now children, let us see the 2 maps. They are the maps of Sri Lanka and Belgium. And this chapter, children, we will start with the stories from 2 countries. Watch the 2 maps, Belgium and Sri Lanka. Now Belgium is, children, from Europe, and Sri Lanka is a country that is from Asia. Now children, remember, both these countries have democracies. And now let us see how they share the demands of power sharing. Now let me tell you about Belgium. Watch this map and just see the map and its neighboring countries. Now, as I told you, Belgium is a small country in northwest Europe, and it has its borders with France, Germany and Luxembourg. Now when we compare it to Haryana, it's a smaller than Haryana, and population is little over 1 crore. Now if you want to visit, children, Belgium, please remember, it is known for chocolates, it's known for waffles, it's known for fries and beer. And children who are historically very interested, they can visit the medieval towns and architecture of Belgium. Now children, Belgium and Sri Lanka, I told you both are democracies. Now both adopted different measures of sharing power, and the measures that were taken by Belgium made it known all over the world. That is why you have headquarters of NATO, that is the North Atlantic Treaty, and the headquarters of European Union in Belgium. Now when we were discussing about the neighbors, I told you it has, you know well about Germany and France. It also has a neighboring country, Luxembourg. That, children, is a developed country with advanced economy, and it has one of the world's highest GDP. Now children, let's go to ethnic composition of Belgium. First, I'll tell you about the entire Belgium country. Now in Belgium there are two regions, the Flemish region and Wallonia region. 59% of people live in Flemish region and they speak Dutch. 40% live in Wallonia region and they speak French. 1% residents are the Germans. That was the ethnic composition of Belgium as an entire country. Now we come to Brussels. Brussels, you have 80% people who speak French and 20% speaking Dutch. Now children, when we see Belgium as a whole, we find French community there is rich and powerful. But we find that the Dutch community got the benefits of education and development later. Now what is the result? In region, let's go back to the ethnic composition children. We found in Brussels it is 80% French while 20% Dutch. So, and in the whole of the country you have 59% and 40%. So what is the result was that tension started emerging between two communities and tension became acute in Brussels. Why? Because the population was in the ratio of 80% to 20%. Now let's go and have a look at the map of Sri Lanka. Now we will do the story of Sri Lanka. Now children, remember this Sri Lanka is situated in Indian Ocean in South Asia. Now from the southwest it has Bay of Bengal and from southeast it has Arabian Sea. Sri Lanka is an island. It is just few kilometers away from Tamil Nadu and has a population of about 2 crores, and this population is very diverse. Let's go to the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. Now 74% are Sinhalese speaking and they follow Buddhism, that is they are Buddhists. 18% children are Tamil speaking. They are both Hindus as well as Muslims. 7% children are Sinhalese. Now children, let us discuss the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. Please remember, 74% are Sinhalese speaking and they are Buddhists. 18% are Tamil speaking. They are both Hindus as well as Muslims. 7% are Christians and they are Sinhalese and Tamils. Now these Tamil speakings, they are divided into two groups. They are Sri Lankan Tamils, they are 13%, and Indian Tamils, they are 5%. These Indian Tamils children, they were the plantation workers who had come, whose forefathers had come to Sri Lanka. Now, I have told you the stories and ethnic composition about these two countries, Belgium and Sri Lanka. Now what would happen? Knowing all the population diversities and everything, in Belgium, Dutch could take advantage of being in majority. Imagine, in Brussels they are 80%. So they could, what would be the result when they would neglect their minorities? The result would be disintegration of the country. And by giving an arrangement in power sharing, they have avoided that. Now, Sinhalese, what happened? Sinhalese are majority, 74%. Now, if they imposed, and which they did, that is, they went as per they gave preferential treatment to their majority people, and what they did, it resulted in a civil war. Approaches to power sharing. Belgium and Sri Lanka, they showed different approaches to power sharing. How they dealt with conflicts which rose out of the language. Sri Lanka applied, the word is majoritarianism, and Belgium went for accommodative approaches. Now children, let us go to the two approaches to power, how they dealt with the conflicts that rose in their regions. Now let's discuss majoritarianism in Sri Lanka. What is the word majoritarianism? That is a belief that the majority community should be able to rule a country in whichever way it wants, regarding the wants and wishes and thereby the needs of the minority. Now, let's go to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka children emerged as an independent country in 1948. When the leaders took over the reins of the government, they thought of giving or securing dominance over the government by virtue of their majority. Let me make it very simple. That is, they wanted the Sinhalese to take over control of the government because they were in majority. As I discussed, that is, they were 74% of the population was Sinhalese. So what happens? As a result, the democratically elected government, they adopt a series of measures which try to establish Sinhalese supremacy. Now, an act is passed, children, in 1956, and by virtue of this act, Sinhala is recognized as the only official language, and thus they are disregarding the Tamil language. The government gives more powers or follows policies which favor Sinhalese applicants for universities, for government jobs. A new constitution is framed, and that constitution, children, fosters Buddhism. That is, it favors the religion of the Sinhalese. Now, children, all these government measures coming one after the other, they create a feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. Now, they feel that none of the major political parties that are led by Buddhist Sinhala leaders were sensitive to their language and culture. They felt that constitution and government policies denied them equal political rights. As a result, children, relations between Sinhalese and the Tamil communities strained over time. Now what do they? They will not sit back, they have to do something. So what do? Is the Sri Lankan Tamils, they launch parties, they launch struggles for the recognition of Tamil as an official language. They want, now they're not only asking Tamil as an official language, they want regional autonomy also, and they want jobs. They are asking education for their own groups. Now, by their demand for more autonomy to provinces which are populated by the Tamils, these demands are repeatedly, children, denied. By 1980s, children, several political organizations are formed and they demand independent Tamil elam. And the regions which are demanding this are the northern and the eastern parts of Sri Lanka. Now see what happens. There is distrust between the two communities, and this turns into a conflict, and slowly and with time it turns into a civil war. Now what is the result of a civil war, children? It results in people in thousands get killed. Families are forced to leave the country as refugees because they have lost their livelihoods. This was, children, that happened in Sri Lanka. Now let's come to the topic accommodation in Belgium. We did see what approach Sri Lankans took. Now, Belgian leaders are very sensitive and they took a different path. First of all, they recognize that we have the existence of regional differences. We have cultural diversities. So they knew the problems. The problem was regional differences and cultural diversities. So what do? They amend the constitution from 1970 to 1993. That is, in a span of 23 years, they amend the constitution 4 times. 4 times, children, the constitution is amended. And by that thing, they work out an arrangement that would enable everyone to live together within the same country. Now, this arrangement they worked is different from any other country and it is very innovative. They did not allow their country to get disintegrated because they also had the population differences which we have discussed. So they gave a world what we call as the Belgian model. Now let's see what this Belgian model is. Constitution prescribes that the number of Dutch and the French speaking ministers shall be equal in the central government. Some special powers or some special laws require the support of majority of members from each linguistic groups. Thus, no single community can make decisions unilaterally. Now what they did is, many powers of the central government, they have been given to the state governments of the 2 regions of the country. The state governments are not subordinate to the central government. Now, Brussels, children, has a separate government in which both communities have equal representations. The French-speaking people accepted equal representations in Brussels because the Dutch-speaking community has accepted equal representations in the central government. Now, apart from the central and the state government, children, there is a third kind of government, and that is known as the community government. Children, that is elected by people belonging to one language community. That is, either they are Dutch, French or German speaking, and it does not matter where they live. Now, what does this community government do? What powers does it have? It does have the powers which are related to culture, education and language. Now children, you might find that this Belgian model is very complicated. Indeed, it is complicated. It is complicated even for the people of Belgium. But these arrangements, children, have worked very well for these 2 major communities, and what they did is, and this power arrangement, it did not divide the country. That is a beautiful thing. It kept them together. They did not go divide their country on linguistic lines. So when many countries of Europe, they came together to form a European Union, Brussels was chosen as its capital. Now, what is the outcome? We have studied the 2 countries, the stories from 2 countries, the way they shared their power. Now we saw in Belgium that both of them, remember children, they have democracies. Now what did the leaders of Belgium do? They respected the feelings of different communities and they worked, they come out, they gave world an acceptable arrangement for power sharing. What did the leaders in Sri Lanka do? The leaders, they favored the majority community. That is, they favored the Sinhalese. And that, what did that do in turn? It undermined the unity of the country. Now let's go back to our objectives. The objectives are that power sharing should be such that it would reduce conflicts. It would enable countries to live together. It would have peace in the countries, and we have seen, when we have seen the power sharing arrangements in these two countries, in Belgium, which shared its powers among all its community groups, it was a stable country. Whereas when Sri Lanka children, it fostered one religion of the Sinhalese communities, it resulted in the civil war. Power sharing is desirable. Children, there are two types of reasons for this. There are prudential reasons and there are moral reasons. Now let us see prudential reasons why power sharing is desirable. Power sharing is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflicts between social groups. Now, social groups, when there is a conflict in social groups, it leads to violence. That gives rise to political instability. So, power sharing is a good way to ensure the stability of political order. Now, children, if we impose the will of majority community over others, it might look attractive option, but in the short run. But in the long run, it will undermine the unity of nation. These were the prudential reasons. Now we will come to the moral reason why power sharing is desirable. Power sharing, children, is the very spirit of democracy. A democratic rule involves power sharing because they have to involve people, they have to get them together so that they are with your power sharing. People, they have the right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. Children, a legitimate government is one where citizens participate, where they have a stake in the government. These were your two reasons. One was the prudential. No, you had two reasons for prudential and you had one reason as the moral reason. Now, that was your first power sharing, this one. Now, second topic which we are going to do is power is shared among different organs of the government. We have already studied the three organs of the government, that is legislature, executive and judiciary. The first one is, this is also, children, known as the horizontal distribution of power. Why? Because it allows different organs of government placed at the same level to exercise different powers. Such a separation ensures that none of the organs can exercise unlimited power. That, what does it do? Each organ checks the others. What is the result? This results in balance of power among various institutions. In a democracy, children, even though ministers and government officials exercise power, they are responsible to the parliament. They are responsible to the state assemblies. Similarly, though we know that judges are appointed by the executives, they can check the functioning of the executive or laws made by the legislatures. So what this arrangement is also called a system of checks and balances. Now, power can be shared among governments at different levels. First one was, the level was very same, that is, you had the horizontal distribution. Now you're talking about sharing of power among governments at different levels. Now there is a, children, all of us know that we have a general government for the entire country, and there are state governments, or you can call provincial governments, at the regional or at the state level. A general government for the entire country is, children, called the federal government. In India, we also call it as central or union government. the government children at the state or the regional level, they are known by different names. In India, children, we call them state governments. Now, this system where you have the state government, where you have the central government, this is not, children, followed in all countries. There are many countries where there are no provincial or for that matter, regional governments. But in country like India, which is so diverse, which is such a big country, there are different levels of government, and the Constitution lays down powers of different level of the government. That is, what are the powers which have to be taken by the central government, and what are the powers of the state government. Now, this is what they did in Belgium also. We're going back to Belgium. But this system, children, was not done in Sri Lanka. Now we will discuss that how power can be shared among governments at different levels. There is a general government for the entire country, and there are governments at provincial or regional level. Such a government, general government for the entire country, it is also known as the federal government. In India, we can call it as central or union government. The government's children at the provincial or the regional level are called by different names in different countries. In India, children, we call it as state governments. Now, this system, children, that is where power can be shared at different levels, is not followed in all countries. There are some countries where there are no provincial or state governments. But in country like India, which is so diverse, we have state governments and union governments, and we also have a third tier of a government. Now, the Constitution clearly defines what are the powers of the state government, what are the powers of the central government. Now, this is, children, what they did in Belgium, but it was refused in Sri Lanka. This is called federal division of power. The same principle can be extended to levels of government lower than the state government, such as in India we have municipalities and panchayat. Now, children, this division of powers involving higher and lower levels of government is known as the vertical division of power. Now, children, the power can also be shared among different social groups, and these social groups, they can be religious or they can be linguistic groups. Now, what is the best example of this is the community government in Belgium. That is the good example of this arrangement. Now, children, what we see is in some countries there are constitutional and legal arrangements whereby socially weaker sections and women are represented in the legislatures and administration. This type of arrangement is meant to give space in the government and administration to social groups who otherwise would feel alienated from the government. This method is also used to give minority communities a fair share in power. Now, political parties, pressure groups, pressure movements, they also influence people who are in power. Now, children, we know that in a democracy, the citizens must have the freedom to choose among various contenders of power. In contemporary democracies, children, this takes in the form of competition among different political parties. Such competition ensures that power does not remain in one hand. In the long run, power is shared among different political parties that represent different ideologies and social groups. Now, what happens sometimes, children, is that this type of sharing can be direct. When two or more parties, they form an alliance to contest elections. If their alliance is elected, they form a coalition government and thus they share power. Now what happens in a democracy? We find there are several interest groups. They may belong to a trader community, they may be from businessman community, they may be industrialists, they may be farmers, they may be from any other group. They will also have a share in government power, either through participation in government committees or bringing influence on the decision making process. Now this finishes our lesson of power sharing. Thank you.